Welcome, everybody. My name's Chris Chomenko. Today, we're going to talk about selling more without being salesy. This is a topic near and dear to my heart as someone who's been in sales the majority of my life, who maybe I didn't. Sales, is one of the. I think the truth is when it comes to sales, we're all in sales in some aspect of our life. And so today, what we want to cover is how we can approach your business, your patients, your clients with a new attitude about what it is we're doing here. Because ultimately, if we don't know how to sell, we're not going to be able to build ourselves the businesses we deserve. We're not going to be able to help people get the outcomes they want. And the truth is, a lot of us avoid sales in our day-to-day, in our careers, where we can, because we don't like to be salesy. So thank you for joining. And happy to have you here for this RepeatMD production, our masterclass of how to sell more without being salesy. With that being said, let's hop right into it. And I want to frame everybody with the concept. And that concept is that power comes through service. So if you want to be a powerful seller, if you want to be powerful in the world, you have to give. It's the law of use. If you want to have stronger muscles, you have to use your strength at the gym to create muscles. If you want to impact more people, you have to use your voice. You have to use what you're given in the act of service, and therefore you become powerful. And to serve people, though, you have to be able to move people. It doesn't matter if I want to help people if I don't know how to move them, right? So moving somebody is taking them from where they are and getting them to actually take action in a direction. And to move somebody, you must be able to touch somebody. And I don't mean physically touch them, right? That can be the case. If I shove you, you better believe I'm going to move you. But what I'm really saying, and what we're saying when we say we have to touch somebody, is we mean inside. We have to touch their minds, their heart, their spirit. And so when you tie this together, this is the concept of how I consider selling. It's power through service. And by developing the skills and abilities, what I'm going to be able to do and what I want you to be able to do at the end of this is be able to serve your community so you can move them and touch their hearts and minds and get them to take action that maybe they've been putting off. Because it's my belief, especially in the aesthetics and wellness community, that every person that we can touch, every person that we can move, we empower and we can actually change lives. You can't say that about every single industry, right? But this is definitely an industry where we're truly making lasting impact and changes on people's lives. And so I want to empower you with the skills to have better conversations, ask those questions, to move more people, and to be able to empower them. And then in the process, empower yourselves and empower your own business. But before we do that, let's start at the beginning. And let me ask you, how do you feel about salespeople generally, right? When you hear the term salesperson, how does it make you feel? When you walk into a store and a salesperson walks up to you, if you're like most people, you don't say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here to help me, salesperson. Yes, please take me and sell me," right? If you're like most people, when you think about a salesperson, you think maybe aggressive nature. You might think somebody who's very manipulative, or a used car salesman, or telemarketers, just pushy people in general, right? These are the typical terms that we think of when we think of salespeople. And, you might think of somebody that looks like this, the guy and his, with crumbs on his shirt, the salesman, promising you the moon, even though he knows the car is a lemon. And the truth is, the reason why we have those impressions about sales is because sales is full of bad role models, right? Everything that you see in the movies and on TV, it's always the slick charlatan, the hustlers that are, either scamming people, they're callous, they're cool, they're cold and calculating. And the truth is, if those are the models we have for salespeople, these people are going to make us feel icky about sales. And guess what? You're not going to ever do something. You're not going to apply your time and energy to doing something that you feel gross doing. And so you're not going to do it. And if you don't do it, what's going to happen is that business and your clients are ultimately going to struggle, and you're going to struggle to find success. So on the other side of that, we have to recognize that selling can be permission-based. It can be value additive. It can be led by curiosity. It can be based in a spirit of generosity. And ultimately, these are the things that selling should be. And, I would venture to say that these values are how the majority of the people on this call like to have the conversations. And what I want to do is I just want to show you a path to have conversations, selling conversations that come from this place and not some weird dark place of trying to get over on people. Because at the end of the day, that can only take you so far before it tanks your reputation. And it's fool's gold, because ultimately it's not going to make you successful, right? And I think everybody really knows that. Or and if you don't recognize that now, then hopefully you recognize it before it's too late. So what we need to do is we need to reframe sales. That's the whole goal. So if we had a mission of today's conversation, it's reframing sales so you can take a fresh approach to it, either with yourself or with your team, and just take something away from today's conversation that you can take into your practice, today, tomorrow, and into the future, that's going to ultimately make you more successful. So let's start with a little myth busting, right? Who has ever had this thought, right? If your service is good enough, you won't need to sell. I'm going to tell you that is the biggest myth and the biggest lie you can tell yourself. And I've heard it many, many times where someone will say, well, look, we've got a great facility. We've got great staff. We take great care of our patients and our clients. We have the best treatments. We don't need to sell anything. And it's just not true. Because selling, like we said before, isn't about, getting somebody's credit card. It's about moving them to take action. And just because you have the best services and best of everything doesn't mean that people are going to be ready to take action. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Have you ever lost a sale even though you had the best product and service? Has that ever happened? Have you ever had the absolute stone cold latest technology? You've been doing it longer than anybody else in town, but yet they still went with somebody else. Sure you have. Or the flip side, have you ever won a sale even though you weren't the most experienced provider, right? Because at some point in life, everybody was starting out. Have you ever won a customer or a patient to your business even though there was somebody far more experienced down the street, or there was a newer technology? I promise, if that was the case, if you won that sale, it's because you, in that instance, you found a way to touch that person and to move them, right? And if you think about your life and you think about those two scenarios when those things have happened, I promise you, if you lost the sale, it's because of a communication breakdown somewhere along the way. If you got the sale, it's probably because you spent more time asking questions and communicating around their needs and how you could serve them. And I challenge you to think back to your own life and your experiences and find out where these two times have been true. And you'll recognize that you're right. It's not always having the best treatment or service will get the deal. You have to have the right conversations. And so let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the two types of prospects you have in your life. And these two types of people are people with latent needs and people with active needs. Let me give you a couple examples, because if there's anything to take away from today, if you were only going to listen to this one part and take away this piece, I promise you it will change your paradigm on your sales for the rest of your life. This is pure gold. When I learned this, it changed my selling approach, and helped me in ways I can't even begin to measure. So this is a part to really bust out the pen and paper or screenshot, whatever you want to do. But this is key. Let me explain. So latent needs. These are problems that exist you don't know about or you haven't been moved to take action on. Okay. Active needs. This is whenever those latent problems are now active and I can't avoid them. I can't put them off. I can't wait until later. Let's give you some examples. Balding tires. That's a latent need. I might be standing next to my car, not even realizing there's an issue, but somebody points out oh my God, hey, I can see the treading on your tires. I can see the metal lining. Wow. Oh my God, I better go get that fixed. I went from a latent need, somebody didn't know I had a problem, to somebody that said, I have to fix this problem right away because new information was presented to me and now I need to take action. An active need is having a blowout on the tire. If somebody had a blowout on the middle of the road, imagine yourself midnight driving through town, you have a blowout and you're stuck there on the road. Are you going to say, let me call around and get the best price on tires? Let me shop around. I don't know which the right tire. Or are you going to say, hey, whoever's open, whoever changed my tire right now, that's who I need to go with. I don't care about the price. I need to get off the road, right? You are in a state of active need. Couple of other examples. You're gaining weight. You realize, hey, I'm gaining some weight. No big deal. Until you go to the doctor and you have diabetes. Now you have an active need to lose weight and do something about it immediately. It's no longer just a glam problem. It's a real threat to your health. Your credit score. Maybe you don't look at your credit. Maybe you don't know about your credit until you go to buy a home and they say you're declined because you have a bad credit score. A latent need, you always needed better credit. You didn't realize it until you were met with the active problem you're trying to solve, which is applying to buy a new home. You feel run down all the time, right? Patients walk in, I'm tired, I've got no energy. Yeah, I need to do something about it, but I don't have energy to do something about it. So that's kind of my problem. Until your dog runs out into the street and you got to go chase them 5 blocks, down the road. And now you've got an active need for energy. And it makes you realize, like, geez, I better do something about this. I can't live my life without the energy I need to do these things. Or a sunburn. I got a sunburn, no big deal. Put some aloe vera on it. It'll go away. Until all of a sudden I start seeing the dark spots visible on my skin. And now I got to do something about it because I'm not in the rush to look like my grandmother or grandfather, with the liver spots and sunspots all over their skin. So I need to go do something about it now. The latent need, active need dichotomy is the biggest game changer in the world, because the difference of people that are in active need at any given time versus the people that are in latent need at any given time is massive. 98% of people are in latent need at any given time versus 2% in active need. So think about that. How many people do you think are out there right now on the side of the road, the blowout, versus how many people do you think are driving around all over the country with bad tires? If you want to make a fortune and if you want to service people at the highest level, what you absolutely have to do is take latent need and bring it to the surface and create active need out of latent need. That is a game changer in any business. If you can take someone who didn't know they had a problem, introduce new information through a series of questions, and get them to understand where they really are and where they can really be, you can change lives every single day. And ultimately, that's what we're here to talk about today, how to do exactly that. So let's talk about how to create urgency. And these are the 5 laws of creating urgency. And creating urgency is another way of saying creating active need. So let's go through these. And I think that you'll find at least one in here. So my goal for any of these that we go through, my big ask is find one of these strategies that you are committed to taking action on immediately, right? Never leave the scene of a decision without taking some action. So if you hear something you really like, something that makes a big difference, something you think will work for you and your team, write it down, make a commitment to take action on it, because I'll tell you, the application of this stuff is everything. You can have all the knowledge and all the education, and you can read the slides and hear me talk about it. But until you commit to taking action on these things, you won't see how they actually work for yourself. And the truth is, you have to take some action, because in everybody's use case, it's going to be a little bit of a different conversation. You're going to use all of these tools differently. So let's get into it and see which ones make the most sense for you. So number 1 law of creating urgency: gold medals and German shepherds. The reason why we call it gold medals and German shepherds is simply this. Some people are motivated running towards the finish line. They're motivated about where they're trying to get. Those are gold medals. Some people are motivated more by getting away from the German shepherd that's chasing them. So you have to understand what type of person you have in front of you. And the truth is, at any given time, we're all motivated a little bit by, the goal and the finish line, a little bit about the pain we're trying to get away from, right? So there's always a little bit of a combination. But what you'll find is the majority of folks, they have one or the other that is more predominant in their overall attitude and approach towards life. And if you don't identify which type of person you're in front of, you're going to have a really hard time breaking through and communicating to that person, because you're not going to be speaking their language, right? And trust me, like, you've met these people, you talk to them every single day, you just haven't had a way to to actually bucket them. But I'm going to give you that right now. So here's the towards values. Here's what to look for in a towards person. It's all about the targets. They're goal oriented, very clear vision on the outcome they want to get. They typically operate from an aspirational standpoint, and it's a much lower stress way to live their life, because they're always living on the hopium. Okay. So their emotions, they're typically joyful, excited, enthusiastic, hopeful, more open, more relaxed. Those are the typical emotions of towards values people that are more oriented towards the what's next. Now, your German shepherds or your away value folks, not specific, right? They're just trying to get away from pain and stay away from pain. They don't necessarily have a specific place they're trying to get to. They're just trying to get away from here. They're trying to get out of the current pain. Anywhere is better than here is kind of the motto. It's a good philosophy for starting, like to take the first action. Like pain is definitely a great motivator to like do something, but it's not a great motivator to finishing, right? A great example, like getting on the scale or not being able to fit into your pants before your wedding or your tuxedo or your dress, like that is enough pain to get you started. But is it enough pain to get you to a 6-pack or run a marathon? Probably not. You at some point you have to transition into a towards value person to really hit the big things. It's a more stressful way to live. So these folks, when you talk to them, there's more underlying anger, there's frustration, they're dealing with some rejection, criticism, internal judgments, fear, maybe some loneliness, some stress, some shame, embarrassment, guilt, jealousy. Very natural emotions that we all experience, but you'll see that these emotions, a few of them at least, are kind of their overriding kind of space where they live, right? And the truth is, either one of these folks deserve your service and your help and support, and you can offer it. You just have to know how to ask for it. So I'm going to give you 2 quick hints, right? Whenever you're talking to a towards person and you want to ask them to work with you, you just say it in a really positive affirmational way. Great. So let's take the next step and get you started. It's an assumptive to a yes. They already have the vision and the goal probably lined out more clearly than you do. So you just have to give them permission to go ahead and let's get started. Like, hey, here's the next step. For an away person, it's different. They are always poised to say, no, let me think about it. Maybe, I don't know. Very, very reserved and reticent before taking action. So a great way to ask them to get started is by getting the no first. So you might ask them something like, hey, would it be totally crazy for you to take the next step and get started today? Would it be totally crazy to ask you to go ahead and say yes? And they have to say, well, no, it's not totally crazy. So you get that first no that they're already wanting to give you anyway. But it's really, those are just two just like little quick nuggets that you can use whenever you identify if you have a away person or a towards person. And the truth is, I would have to guess that the people on this call, you've had enough interactions with folks and you can quickly identify like, hey, is this person going places? Is this person trying to, or are they running away from something or running towards something? It's a great way to think about it. Let's move on. Number 2, second key to creating urgency is you have to understand that sales is change management. And what does that mean? It means somebody wants something and they can't get it. So you have to know, A, what does your patient want? B, what's getting in their way? Okay. This is the secret. If you don't know what somebody really wants and you don't know what's really stopping them from getting it, you can't help them change. So I want you to look at this little graphic, right? Very simple graphic, but it has very profound impacts. And if you can just kind of remember these 3 bullets, they'll make a massive difference in how you have your conversations. So 1 over here, this stands for current state. This stands for how somebody currently exists, right? It might be in that latent state where I have challenges or issues, or maybe I'm not necessarily 100% aware of them. I'm coming to find out what my challenges or issues are. Maybe I feel tired, but I don't know why. Maybe I don't like the way something's looking on my face and I don't know how to fix it. That's my current state where I'm at right now. And I could even be in a current state where I feel pretty good, but after doing some additional analysis, I'm actually, I got something really serious going on, right? So quickly, our current state will lead to a desired future state, right? And if you're really good at creating active needs, my current state may be like, hey, doc, I'm here for a checkup, feeling fine. But the doctor recognizes I got something serious going on. Then I have an immediate desired future state of getting back to health, removing this block, whatever is in my way. And so that's why the point 3 in the middle here is the obstacle or challenge. And your job is to help your client, your patient, go from their current state to their desired future state and make them feel comfortable that you're the person that's going to help them navigate the obstacle or the challenge efficiently and effectively. So remember, the people you're in front of are in a current state. They have a goal, which is a desired future state, and it's your job to help them to navigate the obstacles and challenges to get there. Number 3, this one is absolutely critical. I coach this to my team and the folks that I work with all the time, and it's selling the intangible value. You see on the screen here, you got a bunch of drills and you got a bookshelf, and you got this quote. I love this quote. One of my favorite quotes in sales and marketing: nobody wants a drill, They want the hole the drill makes. You have to sell the hole. Okay. Nobody goes into Home Depot because they want a drill. What they really want is the hole the drill makes. And what they really want is the hole, because the hole is where they can put the screws to build the bookshelf. And they really want the bookshelf because they want a better aesthetic. They want a more functional place to live. The drill is just the tool how they're going to get from their current state, right, which is no bookshelf, to their desired future state, which is a beautiful bookshelf and a nice little cozy space to read their books. If you spend your time talking about the features and the benefits and which drill's stronger and which one's better price for the money and all of these things, you're not really speaking to what the person's trying to solve for. So if somebody comes into your practice and they tell you, like, hey, I want body contouring, it's not necessarily in there. Why should I choose M-Sculpt Neo versus Cool Sculpting? You shouldn't start selling the features and benefits. You should figure out what is the outcome that you're trying to create. Why would you go for either and then sell the whole, sell the outcome? And this is the implication of what you plan on doing with the tool, right? So if somebody walked into me and I'm at Home Depot and they said, hey, look, I'm interested in a drill, my first question might be, well, what are you building? What do you need the drill for? Number 4, fourth key into creating urgency, layering questions. There's 4 types of layering questions that you really want to focus on and be successful with. Issue questions, implication questions, global questions, and solution questions. So let me give you a couple examples of what these are. Honestly, there's tons of examples, and I'm sure you can find your own examples. And I would actually encourage you to do so. Find examples that are specific to you and your business, because these are huge. So let's start with the issue questions and the implication questions. And these are really key because they work together in tandem. You're going to use a combination of issue questions and implication questions to really encourage your patients and clients to talk to you more. So an issue question would be something like, what would you like to accomplish with us? Or to what extent do you think about this issue, right? To what extent is this on your mind? Those are issue questions. You're talking about the issue, you're trying to get them to talk about the issue. Implication questions are more about, like, what does it actually mean to you if you solve this or don't solve this? So some examples of the implications would be, how does this sunspot affect your confidence when you're leaving the house? Or, how does this extra weight, how has this extra weight ever impacted your plans and chosen not to go out, chosen not to take your shirt off at the beach, right? What have you sacrificed because of this? What does this cause you to miss out on? Those are implication questions. What would it mean if you don't actually solve this? Like, hey, what would your life look like if you don't lose the weight? Like, oh, it might mean, man, like, if I don't lose the weight, it might mean I'm not going to be here for my kids, or I might not be alive long enough to see them have kids. And I definitely won't be able to play with my grandkids. And, I'm not going to be around for all that. And they won't have their father in their lives. And, that's pretty powerful. So you can see how an implication question can really change somebody's entire approach to what they thought they were actually shopping for. This is selling the whole, right? So think about the power of the question when you ask somebody, hey, what would it really mean to you? And what does it mean? Or how does this affect you? Because at the end of the day, uncovering what things really mean to people are how you touch them and how you move them to take those actions that we talked about earlier. And one of the keys that you'll see gets missed all the time are the global questions, because the global questions, those are really the questions that allow you to be a good active listener and go deeper with what they're saying. Because if you're just going to ask those questions just because you're checking items off a box, or you think it's going to help people buy from you more often, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons, the wrong purpose. You really want to do, like, you have to be curious. Like, there's a great quote from Zig Ziglar. He's one of my favorite sales trainers of all time. I'm from Texas. He's from Dallas, and he's just a really authentic, good human being, right? Like, he's one of my great models for sales success. And one of his lines is, people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. And this is a great place to do that. And these global questions are going to give you the ability to go deeper. Because when someone says, well, man, it means I'm not going to be here for my kids. And you say, well, how do you mean? Well, I mean, if I don't lose the weight, like, I won't be able to get up and run around. I won't be able to I won't be able to go to the beach and play with them. And other questions like, how so? Like what? Like, hey, someone says, well, I won't be able to, do the things I want. Like what? What are those things that you can't do? So these global questions are great questions that allow you to go deeper and to get people to explain it in more detail. And the truth is, the more you allow people to connect with their source of their challenge, of their pain, and the outcome they either want to avoid or want to create, the more urgency you're creating, and you're creating urgency very significantly. And this cuts across all demographics. It cuts across all business models. So these things are these are global truths when it comes to selling. And the fourth question is your solution question. This is how you actually help people get to take action to the next step. And a solution question might look something like this. So you might say, well, Amy, if this is what you need and this is what we do, would it make sense for us to put a plan together, map out your options, the impact, how this is going to impact your day-to-day and all the associated costs? Should we go ahead and do that? And then, of course, Amy, if you've done the process right, should be very receptive to taking action on whatever your next step is. And one thing I would encourage you to do is to create your solution questions. What would your solution question look like in your practice, right? So you've identified the issue. You've asked implications. What would it mean if you don't solve it? What does it mean if you do solve it? You've asked the global questions, allow them to go deep and really uncover the truth of why they want to solve it. I don't want to lose weight. I want to be here for my family. I don't want to buy a drill. I want to build a bookshelf. I don't actually want a bookshelf. I want to have a cozy place to sit. I don't want to, fix my face, for lack of better words. I want to feel more confident when I leave the house. And that's not just I want to leave. I actually want to leave the house because I've been putting off events and plans because I feel like I look bad. I don't want to be seen in public. And what would that mean to me? Well, it means I get my life back, right? And if you have that conversation with someone, you've got to give them a very easy way to take the next step. And that's where these solution questions come in. So you have to understand what your solution question will look like. And, honestly, what I like to do with folks when I sit down, the one-on-one consultation, is help you create those solution scripts, right? But today we can give you some nice broad strokes. And then number 5, this is really important. And this is more for your sanity and your peace of mind. Not all prospects are clients, right? You're not going to lose them all. Believe me, sometimes you're doing yourself a favor by not working with some people. And I think everybody knows what I mean when I say that, right? It's like 80% of your problems come from 20% of your clientele. It's probably more like 90-10. Okay. So here's what people's opportunity is. They can either hire you, they can hire someone else, or they can do nothing. All 3 are perfectly viable opportunities, and only they can decide. What you need to do for your peace of mind and the sake of your business, and honestly to help them out, is quickly align with their goals, their challenges, and the outcomes they want, right? So, hey, I get your goals, I get the challenges, I get the outcomes, I can help you. Let's do this, right? Or if you can't do that, decline to work with them if you're not a good fit to help them. Very simple. If their outcomes they want are unreasonable, not even, Michelangelo could come and, recreate them in the version of the Sistine Chapel. If it's just unreasonable what they want, you can't work with them. If their challenges are something you can't solve, you can't work with them. And if their goals are not the same as what, how your process works, and you can't work with them. So do yourself a favor and see if you make sure you align. And these questions will really help you do that, right? As they're telling you their story and what they really need, and you're getting to the source of it, you'll have a better idea if you're a good fit for them. And the truth is, it's okay not to be a good fit for everybody. It's okay for everybody not to be a good fit for you. But ultimately, the reason why this is a big part of the urgency subsection is because if you do these 3 things, you owe it to yourself and to your client to get through and get them to the next level and actually start to work with them. So that is the 5 laws of creating urgency, which takes us in to our next section, which is who am I, right? Who is this guy up here telling you these different tips and these laws and these secrets? Like, why am I qualified to teach you the things I've learned? Well, the truth is I've been doing sales and marketing for the majority of my adult life. My first job was an appliance salesperson at Best Buy. And I'll tell you, I was very salesy because I had no other choice. I had no training, and I never used a dishwasher or a, the only appliance I ever used was a microwave and refrigerator, right? So but people would come to me and I'd answer their questions. And, with that being said, I've come a long way, especially with RepeatMD and what we built over here. But I'll tell you the truth. I got to make a confession. And the confession is that for a very, very long time, I actually hated sales. And it's for the reasons I just pointed out. I hated sales because I didn't know that sales was anything besides trying to win contests and, trying to sell as the most warranties on the plans, or, make the most commission. And that's all the sales was for me. So for me, sales was a very unfulfilling, very hollow experience that didn't honestly do much for me or the people I worked with. And like, I was good at it just because I had the gift of gab and I was conversational and understood the product. And, but it wasn't something I was proud of. Like, I was always thinking like, man, I got to go back to school. I have to do something different to get out of sales, because like, it wasn't anything that I really like took a lot of pride in. And that was honestly a very sad way to live, considering it's like, it's what I did for so long in my life. But there is a day that changed my life and changed my way of thinking about sales. And it's a very personal story I'll share with you now. My father he was a PGA Tour golfer in his younger career. In his later career, he was an insurance agent, right? Great. And being an insurance agent is a great job for a retired golfer, because he basically played golf and took calls from the golf course all day. So I could see why that's what he decided to do. But unfortunately, my father developed Alzheimer's, and he lost his skills and his abilities, and it was a slow degradation. And I was still in college, but I came home from school, and he was still selling, trying to at least. And I went out there and sold with him, and I tried to help him along in his life and health insurance. And I remember one day we're out there selling a policy, and he told me a story about a guy he sold a life insurance policy to that actually ended up passing away. And he talked to the widow, and basically the money from the life insurance policy saved the widow's life. They didn't have to leave their house and move to an apartment. Was able to feed the kids, gave them plenty of runway to get back up on their feet and pay off the house and do those things. And I said, well, that's honorable. I'm actually having an impact. Like, to see that was really powerful. But then it happened to me. I actually had somebody call with a claim, somebody I had worked with, lovely lady named Mrs. Rodriguez, and her husband passed away in an accident on the job site, and they had $100,000 policy, but it doubled because it was an accident related, so it was $200,000. And I just remember she could barely talk, but she was so thankful to me that I was able to have the conversation with her husband, and this was only months prior, to convince him how important it was for him to protect his family. And they had nothing saved. There was no money. There was nothing there. But with this money, she's able to pay her mortgage, take care of her kids, and ultimately it saved her life. And that's when I recognized that if you have the right product for the right person, and if you really truly understand their need, and your responsibility is to solve that need to them specifically, you can change and transform people's lives. And from that day forward, I never thought about sales as a job again, but as a calling, as long as I truly believed and trusted the product that I was selling. And so one of my biggest principles in my life is I will only sell something if I truly believe that it benefits the people on the other end of the conversation. And what I love about this industry is that every single one of you truly believes in your services and products and your ability to impact people's lives. So, it's a little personal for me. And honestly, the tools that I learned, that I picked up, right? Because from that day I became a master student, right? I no longer thought about sales as a side hustle or just something I'm doing to get to the next place. I said, hey, this is actually my life's calling. So I read every single book you can imagine. I listened to the webinars, went to the seminars, and I just tried to figure out, like, what are the best people doing? And I realized, like, it wasn't being salesy at all. What they were doing is figuring out how to connect with people's like true needs, wants, pains, emotions. And I've been able, I guess I should say I've been fortunate enough to be at a company now where I've been able to help drive the company from $0 to over 100 million in 2 years, using these same principles and strategies every single day with our team that I'm sharing with you now. So if your question is, why me? What's my qualification? I'm not making this stuff up. These are the same exact tools and blueprint that we talk about every single week in our calls and our conversations with our team to help us build our company. And I'm sharing with you now because I want to see the same level of success. If you're a RepeatMD client, fantastic. I want you to be able to use these tools in combination with our technology and everything else you're using to have your best year ever. If you've never heard of RepeatMD, but you're picking up some great value, fantastic. I want you to have your best year ever. So let me give you the 4 principles that changed everything in my life, in my selling life, and take these with you, staple them to the wall, or make them your screensaver. But these are 4 principles that I think can change everything for you if you start to apply them on a regular basis. So 1, have the courage to ask. 2, don't sell, uncover and discover. 3, find a pain point. 4, play the long game. Okay, so let's go through it. I'm going to go through here a little quickly to make sure we get to all the slides. And don't worry, at the end of this, I'm going to give you a great link where you can have a little guidebook that I put together with some of my, my favorite parts and pieces. And also, I forgot to mention, this is really key. If you feel like, whether you're having a great time and getting a lot of education information or not, stick around to the very end, because I am giving away a Louis Vuitton bag at the end of this, right? So, that's my salesy part for you. We're giving away a Louis Vuitton bag, folks. But look, the reason why we're giving away a Louis Vuitton bag is really simple. It's an ethical bribe. Your time is valuable. You have 1,000 other places you could be. So the least we can do is throw something fun, a nice ethical bribe to keep you around. And, if you've ever been part of our webinars before, I think we're so deep into Louis Vuitton, I don't even think we could do a webinar without Louis Vuitton, even if we wanted to. So there's that. So let's get into it. So number 1, have the courage to ask. And what I'm talking about is asking the hard questions that might not have good answers. Quote here from my friend at Thomas Freeze at Secrets of Question-Based Selling. He says, the risk of failure and the possibility of hearing bad news makes the hard questions in sales very difficult to ask. And that's 100% true, right? We always like to ask questions that are very hopeful, like, hey, are we still looking good to, meet on Wednesday? Hey, are you still excited about the plan? Like, those are questions like, hey, are we still going out tomorrow night? Those are questions based in hope and optimism, but ultimately they don't get you the answer you want. More often you think what you're doing is you're putting people in a little micro defense where they have to come up with excuses, and that's not what people like. So what most people would say is, are you still interested in moving forward with the plan or with the proposal? What you're going to say is, are you still interested in moving forward with the plan, or is there something that might cause you to, put off the treatments or put off the program? That's called a neutralized question. So you're going to ask, but you're going to ask from a neutralized framework. So think about anything you could say that has just pure positive intention, and make sure you add a neutralizing statement, because that neutralizing statement ultimately is going to give people the freedom to give you the real reason why they might not move forward, instead of just making an excuse like, oh, I can't because my kids are sick, or, oh, let me ask my wife. By saying, hey, is there something that might cause you to pull off the treatments? Then I'm like, oh, wow, they get it. Yes, actually there is. I got this thing going on. And guess what you can do when you get the real truth? You can have a conversation about creating a real solution and still convert later on. So have the courage to ask. Number 2, don't sell, uncover, and discover. Questions in the discovery process sound something like this. Now, keep in mind, there are multiple different questions and multiple different ways to phrase things. But these are just a couple examples I want to share with you quickly. How long have you noticed? Or how long has this been going on? How long have you noticed the problem? How long have you noticed this sunspot? How long have you noticed that you couldn't buckle your pants, right? These are important questions. How long has it been going on? What have you tried already to solve the problem? So this is important. Like, hey, is this the first person you called? Have you tried anything before? Have you ever tried losing weight before? Have you ever done it? Have you tried any creams or serums or injectables? What have you tried in the past, right? Did it work? Did it not work? Why are we here? What would it mean to you if this problem was fixed, right? That's one of those implication type questions. Like, hey, what would it mean to you if you didn't have this issue anymore? If you woke up tomorrow and you didn't have the gut, if you woke up tomorrow and, your crepey skin was, supple and taut, what would it mean, right? Find out. Then the next question, I really love this. What would it really mean, right? So if I say, hey, what would it mean to you if you woke up tomorrow 20 pounds lighter? Man, it'd mean I could, wake up and, put on my old suit. Well, what would it really mean? Well, it really mean that, feel better, look better, promotion at work, go to the beach, take that trip I've been putting off. Like, and we talked about that earlier, but like, it's super key. It's worth reiterating, because this is the path to really unlocking people's ability to work with you. And then question I love is, why is it important to solve this problem now? Because they could solve it, right? Yes, they could have solved it last year. They could solve it next year. But ask them, like, tie it to a time frame, tie it to right now. Because most people, before you ask them that, they're not thinking about solving the problem right now. But if you ask them that question, they'll start to think about, oh, well, why would it be important to solve it now versus later? And then ultimately, you're going to have more positive outcomes from conversations, and more people are going to work with you, and you're going to convert at a higher level. Let's go to number 3, which is find a pain point. Okay. So don't ask what they think, but always ask what they feel. I'll repeat that. Don't ask what they think. Always ask what they feel. Here's something true in life. We don't buy off of logic as much as we think we do. We buy off of feeling. I promise you. I can guarantee you there's been a time in your life where you've wanted to buy something and you put it off and you put it off and you put it off, whether it's a car or a TV or, a treatment, something to, spoil yourself. And then one day you just woke up and you said, no, you know what? Today I'm going to do it. Screw it. Like something was going on with your emotional state that day where you just said, you know what? The hell with it. Today I'm just going to go do it. You didn't like logically map out like, hey, on Tuesday, February 25th, I'm going to wake up in the morning and that's going to be the day I'm finally going to pull the trigger on getting that car. You just woke up and said, today's the day, right? That's kind of how we all make our decisions. And what happens is typically we go to a place and like somebody helps get us in that state to pull the trigger, and it helps move us forward. So here's a great way to find a pain point and to really connect with somebody and to help them sell themselves. Because one of the easiest way to sell is to give people the opportunity to sell themselves. And this is a great question for that. So if you have already asked them like, hey, why is it important to solve this thing now? Here's a great follow-up. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it, would you say, to solve this challenge? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much is this bothering you? On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is you to lose this 30 pounds, right? And if you've done a good job of taking latent need and turning into active need, you should have them right there, right? And let's say they say an 8. Most people would say, well, why not a 10? It's not the approach you want to take. In fact, you want to do the opposite. You want to ask them, why isn't the score lower? Because when you ask them why it isn't lower, something marvelous is going to happen. They're going to start explaining to you all the reasons why it's this important. Well, why isn't it lower? Well, I'll tell you, because, I really got to, I get my wedding's coming up and I got to look great for my wedding. Or, I've got this big event. Maybe it's my kid's wedding. Maybe it's, I just got divorced and I can't go out there looking like a schlub, right? These are all reasons why I might tell you why it's not lower. And now I don't have to sell you anything. You've already explained to me why it's an 8 and why it's important to get done today. Life is good. And now you're helping people. You're serving them, right? Another Zig Ziglar quote for you is stop selling, start helping, right? And the best way to do that, like a good therapist, right? If you go to a psychologist, when you go sit on the couch, and I don't know if anyone's ever been, but I'll tell you, they don't do all the talking. They ask a couple questions and you do all the talking. They make their money to be a good active listener and ask some pointed questions, and you walk out of there feeling a lot better. That's what great sales is. Ask the questions to get people to talk, and ultimately they will create the need for themselves. And all you are there to do is be the vessel to help them get to the outcome, that desired future state, right? Tony Robbins will tell you the number one driver of human behavior is the need to be consistent with themselves. So if someone explains to you why it's important and why it's not lower, their likelihood of taking action is way higher, because now I got to be consistent with all the stuff I've already said. It's like, how can I say how important it is to me? And then when you ask for my credit card, just turn around and say, well, never mind. Like, you just told me you're running with your grandkids and your job and your future and your wedding and all these things. But now you're like, it's going to be very hard for them to balk at taking action whenever they've already committed that this is who I am, this is what I need to do, right? Number 4, play the long game. This is a quote I gave you earlier. I must have forgot I put it in here. But the truth is, you've got to build relationships. And I don't know about you, but you don't build great relationships by just rattling off all the highlights and great things about yourself. I'm Chris. I'm this. I'm 6'4", and I'm can dunk a basketball, and things that's not necessarily true anymore at all. I can touch the rim, but you don't sit there and rattle off all the highlights about yourself and expect someone to be like, wow, oh my god, this guy's incredible. I love this guy. That's not how it works. People are like, oh, get me away from this loser. In any conversation, the person who does the majority of the talking comes away with a better feeling about the conversation. Which means if I want to create better relationships and great connections, I better ask questions and let people do the talking. and I better use my global questions, my implication questions, my issue questions to really get those conversations started. And I promise you, if you're having conversations with your patients and you're doing 80% of the talking, they're not going to walk away thinking, wow, this was a great experience. But if they're doing 70, 80% of the talking, they're going to think that you're incredible. Like I said, psychologists make really good livings by just sitting there and listening to people talk. So play the long game, build the relationships, and be honest with people and know your worth. Let me tell you a story, okay? This is true, okay? This is a real example, and I bet a lot of you are going to be able to relate to this. We had a client named Jeannie. Real names have been hidden to protect the innocent here, okay? And these were her problems. She was constantly being undercut on price. Anybody identify with that? Has anybody ever had somebody call them and ask them how much and hang up on you? Right? I know that's a real challenge that we deal with every day in this space. The competition was also copying everything she was doing. So she would do something unique and creative. 2 weeks later, the villain down the street doing the same thing. And then she was frustrated that she would set these meetings and consultations. She's getting no-showed, right? So this is not a good place to be. But believe it or not, like this is a place where a lot of us spend a lot of our time, right? So I told Jeannie to try this. Okay, and this is a real world scenario, so this is very specific. But if you want to, reach out to me afterwards, you're having something similar, and like we can maybe potentially walk through your specific challenge, I'd be happy to help, right? So I said, try this. Raise the objection first. Recommend they shop around first. Oh my God! Don't try to sell them. What? Educate them on what they need to be asking. So when they do shop around and call, like what they need to be asking, and then call me back only if. Right? These are the 4 steps. So here's what it looks like, right? Next time someone calls you and asks you pricing info right off the bat, you'd say something like this. Hey, well, look, before we get started, I just want to let you know I'm not going to be the lowest price provider you speak with. So would you say your primary decision is based on getting the best price or the best results? That might be your opening question, right? Let them answer. And a lot of times they're going to say what? Well, best results, right? I want to look great, right? If they say best price, then hey, all right, no worries. So if they do say, if you're looking for best price, this is how it goes on. If you're looking for best price, I recommend you call around first, right? And here are the questions you need to ask, and I'm protecting you now, so, if I'm, Michael, whoever I'm talking to, and Michael, hey, look, I'd recommend if you're looking for best price, call around first and see what's out there. But, let me just warn you and tell you some questions you need to ask just to make sure whoever you choose to work with, that you're going to go with somebody that takes care of you, right? At least I can do is send you out with some information and insert the warnings of what they should look for, right? What are those red flags, right? Do they actually, if you get them on the phone, like, do they actually know here's a question to ask about the products or treatments. Ask them what they do for their compliance protocols. Ask them if they're, basics, like are they HIPAA certified? What they, just you can insert the warnings that are specific to your space. You know them 10 times better than I ever would. So if you were shopping around and you didn't want to fall into the hands of a bad provider, or the bad actions, like come up with your list and share those with your client, right? And then you go for the power close and you say, hey, and look, call me only if you don't feel fully confident with the other options you've talked to. And guess what? I gave Jeannie that advice, and she called me back 2 days later, and she said, Chris, nobody's called me back. So I was like, all right, well, you know what? That's okay. Give it time. And she did give it time. And guess what? After about a week, the phone started ringing. And guess what? When they called her back this time, and what I assure you is about 50% of the time, they didn't actually call around. They just said, oh, well, I'll call around here. And they didn't get around to it. Like, well, hey, you know what? Jeannie was really honest and I seem like I trust her. Let me just call her back. But they started calling her back. And they said, hey, listen, I want to work with you. Tell me what we got to do. And those people showed up. They paid her price. And they weren't needed to be sold on being the cheapest. So don't play the pricing game. Play the power game of setting people up in the framework for how you work with them, right? Remember earlier I said they can either work with you, work with somebody else, or do nothing. And then you need to quickly align with their goals and the outcomes, or not work with them. This call script does exactly that. I promise if your team started answering the calls with this attitude and mindset and using this type of script, you're going to start turning away the headaches, and you're going to start opening up the doors to people that are excited and interested in working with you, and you don't have to do it based on price, okay? So let's give you a couple of keys to mastery. And one of the key principles is that good sellers adapt and great sellers anticipate. So an example of that would be, you would tell a client, hey, what we do here is we're able to remove, we're able to take live fat from your body, put it into your cheeks, and actually create a better outcome, fill the cheeks, make for healthier skin, and give you that youthful glowing appearance that you've haven't had for the last 20 years. And whenever I sit down with a new patient like yourself, they usually tell me their three biggest problems are, it could be price, it could be, I'm worried about how much pain it's going to be, I'm worried about like if the results are actually real, etc. Is that right? So this is a great concept that you can apply to start anticipating what your patients are going to say, because you already have a good idea of what their pain points are. And what I want to do is take some time for you to understand what pain does your client currently experience, right? Either functional pain, financial, or emotional pain. So here's workshop question number 1. If you want to just write this down or take a screenshot and fill this in later, that's fine. But everybody on this call, what you need to do, your homework, is to write down a list of the different pains that your patients, your clients have, that they're going to have before you even see them. Is it downtime? Is it how painful is it? Is it how much things cost? Is it, does this stuff actually going to work? Are people going to notice that I had work done? I don't want people to know that I had work done, right? That's the biggest one. It's like, what? I don't like, how do you get work done and not know you had work done? But that's a real thing, right? So write down, what are the pains that your clients and patients already experienced that they're going to have before they come in, so you can anticipate. Because you want to be great, and if someone sits down with me and says, hey, Chris, I know what you're thinking it's going to be too long, too expensive, and too hard, right? Shit, how did he know? This guy must be an expert. Now I trust you as an expert because like you already knew what I was thinking before I even said it. That is a level to mastery. Workshop question number 2. What negative outcomes are your patients fearful of or trying to avoid? Right? So what are they trying to avoid? Are they just think about that. What are the negative outcomes your patients are fearful of or trying to avoid? I might be afraid of paying too much. Like I paid $4,000 and turns out my friend got the same stuff done for $2,000. I might be afraid of, it could be affordability. You already have these, but write them down. You need to know the negative outcomes your patients are fearful of or trying to avoid, so you can anticipate them in your conversations going forward, right? So take a screenshot of this so you can do your homework and have these later, because once you have them, you're going to plug them into this adaptation, this anticipation question or statement, and it's going to make you look that much more knowledgeable and your team that much more knowledgeable when you sit across from your next patient doing your next consultation, okay? Workshop question number 3. What objections might new clients raise with you? What are some of the things they're going to tell you why they can't get started today? It's tax season's coming up. Well, I don't want to be, it's Christmas parties. Well, it's summer, so I don't want to be out in the sun. What are the objections that they're going to come up and tell you why they can't get started today or why they don't need to take action? And write down at least 3 to 5 of those objections that new clients might raise with you. And so you have to know, like, when I ask this person to move forward, why are they going to tell me they can't? And be ready for it. And if you're ready for it, you're going to be able to handle it with ease and grace, and ultimately help them realize the truth of life. There ain't no such thing as perfect timing. I love this old quote. I'm gonna start running, but right now it's winter. It's too cold outside, so I'm gonna wait till it warms up a little bit. Now it's springtime, but the kids are back in school, so I got to get the kids back and forth, so there's not extra time. So I'm gonna wait till summertime when the kids are out of school. But now it's summertime, and guess what? It's too hot outside. So now I got to wait until it cools down, and now it's the fall. Well, the fall is here, but I really want to get caught up on some of my work, and so it goes on and on, right? There is no such thing as a real reason not to get started, because there's never a perfect time. So let me give you a quick acronym that you can take to remember if you're thinking about what this reframing really means. This is your new sales framework, SALES. And I don't care if you put this on a note card, a sticky note on your desk, but if you think about sales like this, you're never going to have to sell another day in your life. And that's serve, ask, listen, empathize, summarize. Be at their service. Ask them the type of questions that we talked about. Listen to their answers and show active listening by using global question. How do you mean? Tell me more about that. empathize, and basically my what I say to the team is be a human being, right? Just be human with them. You're a regular person. You have problems and situations you need to handle too. Just listen and care. And then summarize the problems, repeat it all back to them so they really know you really got it. And if you do those 5 things, the trust level, the expertise level that they attribute towards you is going to go through the moon. And ultimately, you and your team are going to have so much more success. It's going to completely change the way you think about your day. It's going to change the way people think about you. You're going to make more money, have more happier patients and clients than ever before, and life is good. And that's what the reframe is all about. So in closing, I got a couple bonuses for you. Now, I'm not going to go through all the bonuses here. I just want to show you what they are. These are going to be included when you scan the QR code here in a second. I'm going to include these in note, like this part of the program today, folks. So this is your bonus. Take it with you. I'm going to give you a nice framework on how to identify, isolate, and overcome. So identify their challenges, isolate it to a specific challenge, and overcome it with a solution, right? I've got scripts right in here for you that you can use and adapt for your practice. I've got a feel, felt, found script. Listen, this is an oldie but a goldie. If you use it right, empathetically and slow and patient, it's going to help you in very specific spots. And this one's like very simple. Like, excuse me. Hey, Mark, look, I understand exactly how you feel. And in fact, I've worked with several other clients, several other patients that have felt the same way. What they have found is our total satisfaction guarantee gives them the opportunity to, go home, have the conversation with their husband or wife, and still take advantage of this offer. Can I share with you how that would work? This is just saying, hey, I understand what you're saying. Other people have felt it before, and here's a solution that they found worked. You're going to want to tailor what your total satisfaction guarantee looks like, but that's where you have to be adaptive to your business model, right? Because everybody's business model is a little bit different. And again, if you want to reach out to me one-on-one and I can help you tailor that, I'm happy to, okay? But this is Feel, Felt, Found. It's been around for 1 million years. But if you say it with empathy, it actually gets people to open up quite nicely. You'll see. Overcome script number 2. If I could, would you? This is really great to make sure you don't have tire kickers, because you're actually saying, hey, look, you're asking, people are demanding, like, well, hey, can you give me this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And you can finally, it's kind of where the buck stops. Like, hey, if I could do X, would you actually do Y? And this is a great script just to get them narrowed down and actually, put some skin in the game and like get them to commit to something. Because those type of people that just run you around in circles and circles and circles. This is a great little script that you can incorporate in your daily practice to actually help just like, hey, look, if I'm willing to do this, would you do this? And then say, okay, pause, let me make sure I can do this for you. And then you have a commitment from them. And getting commitment is important because our default is not to commit, right? That's just how people are wired. Bonus number 2 I have for you. These are 5 questions to book better appointments. Take a screenshot of this. I don't know if it's in the guide, but if it's not in the guide and you subscribe, I'll update it and we'll add some new stuff and new bonuses and like new data if you're interested, and we can share this with you later. But 5 questions to book better appointments. Conversation starter when someone calls you. Hey, thanks for calling the More Med Spa. What's on your mind today? Just get them talking. What motivated you to make the call or have this conversation today? Hey, so what, and let me go through them and I'll pitch it for you. What's the one thing to solve and make you feel better? What else? Because there might be, you say the one thing to get them started, but there might be 4 or 5 things. And what's the real challenge for you? So a conversation might go like this. Hey, Mark, thanks for calling More Med Spa. What's on your mind? Well, I was calling because I'm, interested in, having fuller lips. Great. So what would you say motivated you to make the call today? You just want to see about, some injectables for your lips? Yeah, that's it. Okay, great. And so what's the one thing that we could solve for you and make you feel better? Would it be, getting the, is it fuller lips? Is it shape of your lips? Like what are we talking? Like, try to be more specific, right? Well, yeah, all of the above. Great. Anything else that we could help you with? Actually, yeah, my cheek and jawbone. Anything else? Yeah. Also, I've got, fine lines and wrinkles in my forehead. Anything else? Nope, I'm good. Hey, and what would you say is the real challenge for you? Like, what's this? What are all these things? Like, what's it costing you right now? And if you have that conversation, Mark's like, well, actually, the real challenge is I have my brother's wedding coming up. Now you're like, boom, you got urgency, you got time, you know exactly what he wants. And Mark's like, hey, these people get it. They're professionals. They care. You're going to book better quality appointments. Now, again, these conversations, these questions, you can tailor them, make them look a little bit different, put them in your own words. I highly encourage that. but it's the sentiment of what you're trying to create here that's going to help you get better appointments on the calendar all day, every day. I guarantee it. So let's go here to wrap up here, because I know we're a couple minutes past time. Scan this QR code. This is going to get you full access to my Sell More System Overcoming Objections Guide. So this is just a small little ebook on some things that you can do. Some of the notes that we talked about today, some of those bonus scripts are going to be in here as well. But just a simple little practical guide that you can take and share with the team and start working on. And I promise, if you start using these tools, it will make a difference. Like, these are some of the basic scripts, the building blocks of what we do now that have helped us build a company, over $100 million in sales. So scan the QR code, take advantage of this. And we want to send it to you, right? This is our gift to you as a RepeatMD client. We want you to be successful. We want you to make more money. Our whole mission statement is to help you transform your patients' lives. And unless we can get them to say yes to your treatment plans, we can't do that, right? And then if you're interested in taking a little time, and if you want to schedule a call with one of our team of experts, in 20 minutes, we'll show you how to use the same secrets that the Starbucks, Marriott's, Allergan's, and other big companies of the world are using to grow their sales consistently, right? So a lot of it's about the sales, and how you have the conversations, the questions, everything we covered today. But obviously technology plays a big role of it. So if you don't currently have RepeatMD and you'd like to understand, like, hey, what are the mega brands doing out there to help make the big difference for them on top of having the right conversations, scan this QR code, schedule a quick call with one of our team members, and we'll take a little time and just expose some real insights, and I'm sure it'll be valuable for you, whichever way you decide to go.